Greetings, chess friends. If you want to get better at chess, I will give you today a way to do that. Almost certain to gain hundreds of rating points if you work on your rook and pawn endgames. This is a topic which I much enjoy. Let's jump into these and I'll continue talking about it. Very, very important. In fact, the most common endgame. We're going to see a number of world champions today, starting with CAPABLANCA, one of the great endgame players. But one thing they all have in common is they are excellent rook and pawn endgame players. CAPABLANCA with the black pieces. Now, black is doing well, but points are equal. How do you know black is doing well? We have two pawns that are past the center of the board, right, on the enemy territory. And if you count these three, especially after the move b4, which he played, versus 2, you're guaranteed to make a pass pawn. White does not have the option to make a pass pawn. We also have the better rook. Our rook is attacking the pawn. Theirs is guarding. You don't want to be the defender. You need the active rook. We're going to see that a lot today. And the black king is able to join in the fun, as we're going to see. So all three elements are in black's favor. Better pawns, better rook, better king. King d2 doesn't change much. King d6, king c5. And here, b3, a choice to make. I would not capture this pawn, although black is still doing well. c3, cementing the really nice pass pawn structure. This pawn on c2 now becomes the real target. How are we going to break through is the real question. Well, CAPABLANCA answers that right away. d3. Busting through. What that means is if, let's say, the white king were allowed to get in here to the d3 square, this might be totally locked up. White could move the rook back and forth. If the king were here, this would guard everything and there's no inroads. There's no more progress to be made. d3 is a wonderful move, great understanding. He captures and then rook h2. Could have thrown in a check here, but he goes right for the weak pawn. Notice when that one disappears, this h4 pawn is quick to go to a queen. Rook c2, rook h1, and a beautiful finishing move, king d4. Completely paralyzing white, which has no moves. Zugzwang, essentially, the f pawn can move. We take it. This rook cannot move. Notice a move like rook a2. Everything falls to rook h2. Same with king f2, rook h2. So beautiful game by CAPABLANCA. Better space using the king, rook on the 7th rank, which transferred here to make all kinds of threats. Really, the positioning of the king was dominant, the pass pawns. Let's move on to Mikhail Tal. Might not think of endgame prowess when you think of Tal, the slashing, attacking world champion. But to get to that high level, you have to have a great deal of endgame understanding. Well, this game is very Tal-like, especially now you might be looking to sacrifice something. But I love the next move, h3. h3, jarring loose the white kingside pawns. Captures, just a trade, but what was accomplished? This pawn really separated from the pack. These all feel a little bit weaker now than they were when they were all a chain of 5 here. These 5 pawns together could be nice. h3 breaks all that up. e5, and he takes that h-pawn. So that temporary sacrifice evidently wins a pawn. Now, white does take here. Don't want to trade rooks here. No way. That would be losing, as this d-pawn is just way too fast. So Tal plays rook d7, rook e7. There was no way to keep this pawn, which could have been dangerous. Capture, capture, capture. And after all that, after the nice h3 move, black is up a pawn. These are still difficult to win. Again, a great lesson for all those here today. You need to be thinking about pass pawns. One pawn ahead, like black is enough to win, but you need to be thinking pass pawns. Tal, of course, is thinking checkmate. Always on his mind. So a rook b2 comes back, but slowly these pawns will need to come. It's not a fast process. Now, the next move I want to highlight, as these moments are difficult, what do I do? There's so many options for the rook to go left or right, move the king, move the pawns, move the other. So much going on. But if you think about what your opponent just did, the last move, rook to b4, trying to really probably put one of the rooks here and kind of trade or obstruct, get closer to a draw. Tal plays rook d3, the engine's best move. And that not only sets up some check ideas, nothing maybe super dangerous, but it really prevents what white was trying to do. This move seems a bit aimless now. King h6, and then rook f2, king h5, and seems like now black has made real progress. This pawn is under attack, needs to be guarded. These two rooks are perfectly placed, and rook h6 is just too slow. Rook g3, that's the best move, and forcing a trade. When our king is in better position, all the way down to the end of these games, you can still be alert for tactics like we saw and win these games. Rook f3 and a nice finish here. Don't take the pawn, but king h5. King h5. Taking the pawn actually is technical draw. Still some to play, but this is technically a draw, but difficult in practice. But king h5, and we're just taking this pawn anyway. So you get 2 pawns ahead instead of just 1. Really nice, but again, you can snatch the game away at the end if you're a great rook and pawn endgame player. You can save draws in games that you are down a pawn or struggling. You can save the draw if you're a great rook and pawn endgame player. So be alert for tactics like Tal is all the time. Here, be alert for tactics. Whoa, Capablanca on fire. How about that? Black resigns. What? Rook d8. If you capture this, again, black resigned. h7, and this lone pawn conquers the whole army. Here, just be careful of some checks, let's say. A horrible mistake would be king f2, allowing the rook to get behind. So just play king g2, check, king g3, check. And even this move, let's say there's no skewer at the end of this because when we promote, it is check on black. So really nice one. Be alert for tactics. That's a key lesson. Some people kind of fall asleep in the end game, so to speak, and they're not looking for tactics. As if there was a big attack going on, you would always be really alert for tactics. Here, our only non-world champion, Akiba Rubinstein, with the black pieces, definitely worthy of the highest endgame study. He is incredible, especially with the rook endgames. And here, just played rook c2, trying to dislocate if the king takes queen, but king d3, rook takes knight. This goes right to a rook endgame. Wasn't forced here. He could have traded queens as well. This goes into a rook endgame where it's not easy to tell. Here, the material, black is actually up a pawn, but also white has this open file and a check or trying to take some of these weak pawns. Which pawns would you go after? Actually, you have a choice to take 2 different pawns right now. So these are some of the decisions to make. Rubinstein understood that taking the G pawn was actually, and then the other G pawn, was actually the best route to go. These 2 pawns here will become very, very powerful, connected, protected. Let's see it. Rook takes G2, rook C8 check, king F7, almost luring him to playing rook C7, tucking our king away, and then rook takes. Obviously, white is going for this, but these things are all a matter of timing. How fast can you do things? The fact that we're, again, taking check, the king has to move. That, we all like check, right? But it gains moves, a free move, because they have to waste. And now it's our turn again, f4. He doesn't even bother with this pawn or taking, although black is still winning. f4, rook takes pawn, g4, prioritizing the promotion, okay? Prioritize the promotion. Here we go. Rook b8, rook e3, rook e8, threatening this pawn, and we don't even bother to address that. He could, again, play king f7, but he plays like this. King h7, tucking the king away, not even bothering with any threats on the rook, just saying, you know what? g2, the most important thing. Rook c1 here, and we'd love to push this pawn. Unfortunately, our rook would just be under attack for free, taken. So he just takes 1 step back, really threatening this pawn, but not really. The point is to play f3 and f2, obviously prioritizing what's important. Just want to mention also this rook is pointing behind this passed pawn, so it is no danger. Rook's behind passed pawns. a4, kind of sad. This pawn just now getting going. I remember we were, let's say, way back here thinking, okay, these 2 black pawns versus these 2 white pawns. And it's only now that even 1 step is taken. Way too late. f3, a5, f2. Obviously, this one's over. f1, and white resigns. It's hard to cower. By the way, one of the best players of the day here, Rubinstein, was really just that good, world class in the early 1900s. Okay, Vasily Smyslov, world champion, and this one is quite unique. Again, kind of alert for tactics. We are losing. We're losing big time. Notice here, black is down 2 pawns. And I mentioned earlier that if you have the better rook, which I would say black does, rook on the 2nd rank, 7th rank, super powerful. If you have the better rook, you have the better king, which clearly black does. And you have the better pawns. That's probably in white's favor. He takes another here. We are 3 pawns down. That's bad. That's bad. What are we playing for? I've mentioned in previous videos, trying to think about what are you playing for. Not always to win, but sometimes just to draw. Draw would be great. In this game, 3 pawns down, but we have the better rook and the better king. That counts for a lot, and SMYSLOV plays f4. A really fantastic move, after which the idea becomes clear. We would love to take this pawn, but it's no good. He captures on f5, 3 pawns down. More importantly, our king is just cut off. Okay, cutting off the king is another very important strategic idea we're going to see again in the next one. So what did he do here was pawn f4. He takes f4 and not taking back. We're so many pawns down. Be realistic. King f3. Stunning move. All of a sudden, threatening checkmate. For example, pawn takes pawn, checkmate. Stunning, okay? When you have a powerful king, black's king is overwhelming. It's a great piece. Don't forget, your king is a piece in the endgame, not just sitting back idle. He plays the move h3, and kind of a question I always like to ask of students I show this to is, what would you keep playing? Would you, as black, play on here? A question of your nerves, because you have the draw. Check, check, check. Would you play, let's say, king takes pawn, or pawn takes pawn, or g4, some sort of winning move? And many, many students try to suggest some move, right? They're like, we can try to take and then take, and I always applaud their courage, but we are down 4 pawns. Wake up. You cannot survive 4 pawns down. Rook a1, draw agreed. King h2, rook a2, and this would go on and on until repetition of moves. Funny way to finish. I cannot believe somebody would want to play on there. Be realistic in those games, but a great, great game. f4, that's a really nice idea, giving your king shelter. Many of these endgames do come down to the king having shelter or hiding. Here's one from the great Bobby Fischer, and a lot of great ideas in this simple endgame. 1 pawn ahead, we're clearly winning. How many times have we messed that up, though? Good technique is essential to be a better chess player. These games with rook and 2 pawns, 3, 4, 5, those are super common. The rook end games are the most common. That's why I said at the beginning of the video, the rook end games will pick up your rating hundreds of points. Hundreds of points. It's so important. You will snatch games away from people like you never thought possible. Rook c7. Understand the ideas. This is Bobby Fischer, folks. Not just guessing, not just picking a random move. He's played rook c7. Why? Cutting off the white king. This pawn is going to be our winner, hopefully. We're black. We're thinking this is the one. Don't let their king play. We know king is important. We're keeping their king out of here. a4. Okay. Okay. Mission accomplished so far. He can't get his king involved. Rook h5. The only piece that could stop this pawn is the rook. e3. Rook h3. Staring at it. Now, if we take another step, what happens? He comes right behind. Rooks go behind past pawns. Remember that. Rooks go behind past pawns. What should we do? The best and only move. Rook goes behind past pawns. We just said that. If your attacker, like black here is the one pressing to win, or the defender, which is white, hoping to draw, rooks go behind past pawns. Either color, either way, rooks in the endgame go behind past pawns. Rook e7, rule checks out. Rook h1, e2, rook e1, and now just use your king. It's a simple count. Our turn first. King c3, king f4, king d2. We made it. He attacked twice. We defended twice. We made it. Here, and again, precision. I think a lot of you might just quickly make your move. Doesn't spoil the game, but just be precise. Think about your moves, what they are doing. Rook d7 pushes the king to the c file. If you play king e1, this is just checkmate on the spot. So king c2, and then king g2, and here white resigns. You could play another move, let's say rook e1, king f2. With the king cut off, the side who's cut off is at a huge disadvantage. In other words, this is something you should start doing in your games. Cut off the king. Very first move of this one was rook c7. Remember, cut off the opponent's king. Okay, folks, I really hope you enjoyed this one. I can't say enough how much the rook and pawn endgames will help you. You'll know in the middle games how to trade down, and then get to endgames with the rook or two rooks. Might see quite a few videos on this because I think it's such an important topic. Comes up all the time. And whenever you're seeing those top players, pay attention. Pay attention to each move in detail. What is it doing? Because there's a point to it. They're not just guessing along, okay? Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.